Hey y'all, it's Matt Marr here, aka Matty.
And Poodle, aka Jake Anthony, and we host the podcast 90 Day Gaze.
Poodle, I'm excited because Christmas is here. Aren't you excited?
Bah humbug. What's so great about Christmas? I'm just going to get another boring, straight-looking sweater from my Aunt Jane.
Well, Poodle Scrooge, you tell your Aunt Jane to get you Best Christmas Ever on AMC Plus. You will love it.
Oh, wow. They got all my favorites. Elf, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, The Year Without a Santa Claus. And y'all, AMC Plus is available on all your devices. So celebrate the best Christmas ever, anytime, anywhere.
Sign up today at amcplus.com. AMC Plus, only the good stuff.
Hey Eagles fans, this is Mike Kaye from NJ Advanced Media. Welcome to the No Huddle Show podcast, where we discuss anything and everything Philadelphia Eagles. You can read our content on NJ.com/Eagles, bookmark that, and you can subscribe to our exclusive Eagles Insider Text service, where we'll break news, give you insider observations, and provide in-depth analysis. Through Eagles Extra, you can send questions and comments directly to us, and we'll respond to your phone. With me today, as always, is my fellow Eagles beat reporter, Chris Franklin. Today, we're going to discuss the loss to the Cardinals, what it means for the QB position, and the ramifications of the offseason. Chris, how are you?
Not bad at all, Mike. Not bad. After watching that game yesterday, there's actually some things to be optimistic about, some things not to be optimistic about. But you have to say it was, no matter what, it was a pretty entertaining game. How about you, man?
Well, I think that's what we need to get into, right? I think there's a lot of positive to take away and, frankly, some reality checks as well. So let's get into that. So the Eagles lost to the Cardinals 33-26. In my opinion, it was the most exciting game of the year. Do you agree with that, Chris?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you as I was mentioning yesterday, it was a lot that was going on. You had big plays being made left and right by both offenses, and you look at the it looked like a Pac-12 game or a Big 12 game. The way they kept going by, and the defenses weren't stopping anybody. It was kind of refreshing to see that type of offense being played.
Yeah, I think for the first time, the Eagles kind of opened up on offense. Things were working. They were scheming guys open. They were, Jalen Hurts was making very strong reads. I mean, look, he had his faults in this game. There's no question about it. But, I give him a B+ for his performance. I thought he really brought it. Look, taking the safety was bad news. The 3 fumbles that he recovered, not great. Did he miss a couple of guys down the field? Yes, excuse me. But listen, he put up 338 yards against a pretty decent Cardinals defense that dared him to throw the ball, and he did. He picked up another 63 yards and a touchdown on the ground. We talked about it before that I said that I thought it was kind of a weak argument to say that he needs to be a better passer, but we just saw that he is a better passer when given the opportunity. I was just blown away by this guy's resolve and his poise when down 16-0 and leading a comeback drive. Early in that second quarter, he got the game to a tie game, even with, a punter sidelined, a holder sidelined. And look, I mean, the Eagles were put in some rough spots in this game because of faults of their own and injuries. And I think this was really the most, you don't believe in moral victories in the NFL, but this was probably the biggest moral victory loss you could have. I think Jalen Hurts is very, very real. There's tons that he has to work on and improve upon, but just his mental stability and his mental toughness, that's so huge in a league like this, where you're seeing reports like Carson Wentz from ESPN, where Carson Wentz apparently doesn't want to be here if he's not the starter and would want out. There's been a conflicting report from the AP that he has not said that to anyone. But the bottom line is if those close around him want him out, there's a reason. And for that to leak is not a great look, especially on a game day, especially before Jalen Hurts is going to make a second start. I don't really think that report helps anyone leak-wise, because if Jalen Hurts falls on his face against the Cardinals, that's come out and Carson looks like a bad guy for no reason. Now, if it leaked on week 17, I'd get it. But the Eagles are really on the cusp of being eliminated from the playoffs. They'll know if they'll be able to compete for the playoffs before their game against the Cowboys next Sunday, as Washington will face the Panthers and the Giants will face the Ravens. If Washington loses to the Panthers, the Eagles essentially control their own destiny. Or they don't, actually. Sorry. The Giants, Cowboys, and Washington need to lose at least once in the next two games. Washington needs to lose both their next two games, which the Eagles will play them in week 17. The Giants either need to lose to the Ravens or lose to the Cowboys. The Eagles need to beat the Cowboys and Washington. So, yeah, a lot to unpack there, and not a very promising future for the playoffs, but a promising future at quarterback. And we also saw some young guys really step up, and I thought you really encapsulated the importance of that in your article this morning.
Well, thanks, appreciate it. I think a lot of people did step up. I think first off, I will say this: I think Doug Pederson did a better job play calling. I mean, it was a little rough earlier on. There was some curious decisions that he made, but I liked the decision that they made. They did a lot of tight end whams and tight end pulls as well too. They even pulled Mylotta. I thought it did a great job, and I thought guys like Dallas Goedert, I thought Zach Ertz. I mean, I thought that was a great job that he did reemerging. I mean, we were wondering what's happened to him. I mean, he had a fractured ankle, but ever since then he's been middling around, and you saw what happens when he still get open. He can go ahead and make some plays, and I thought the guys like Quez Watkins helped support Hurts when it came to there. And the one thing I did see that Hurts did that I thought was really great was he took time to actually, he looked, as you mentioned, poised. He was comfortable in that pocket, even though it was getting a lot of rush from that right side, Matt Pryor. But he was getting a lot of rush from that right side. He was stepping up. He was going ahead. He was still scanning down the field and looking to throw first. And that was one thing I think that you see a lot of rookies when they don't have that first or second read, they just go ahead and take off. But what he did, he stepped up in that pocket. He looked down the field. And he was able to find a few guys by using his legs while still scrambling around, which I thought was a very good job. And I thought Peterson did a great job in that. I think you started to see the reemergence of with Ertz with that. And I also got to commend Quez Watkins. I mean, this guy, he pulled the old the old pivot drill. He did a great job on that quick screening. You're starting to see that this offense is starting to tailor the guy's strengths now. And when they're able to do that, you actually use, I mean, perish of thoughts, you actually use an offense that actually uses everybody's strengths, and you see what the capability of this offense can do. And that goes back to kind of gets you frustrated. Like, even though when Wentz was in there, they were struggling. Like, do you think that they should have go ahead and put Hurts in maybe a week or two early? And if that's the case, we'll be having a completely different discussion, not having to rely on Washington having to lose the next two and the Giants having to lose and everything else.
Yes.
It's crazy.
The answer to that is yes. Look, not to cut you off, but like, what does that also say about Carson Wentz? Does that say he's not very coachable when scripting things to his strengths? Maybe he wants to be something else that he isn't. There's a lot of fuel to the fire there. Look, I think if we look at this offense, Jalen Hurts' style of attack has been dumbed down. I think you can't just say he's been this like completely different force and this brilliant quarterback. I think he's performed very, very well. But I do think there's, like, at some point we need to pump the brakes a little bit. That said, with the ESPN report being out there and the hedging report being out there, it's got people thinking, it's got people talking. Look, the Eagles can save roughly $80 million in 2022 and beyond by trading Carson Wentz. Look, they're going to have to take a $34 million cap hit, but when you're not paying Jalen Hurts very much, and you can bring in a cheap veteran backup, and next year's probably going to be a struggle, does it make sense to take your medicine now or go through this all over again, and then you owe Wentz another $15 million guaranteed next year? I do think there are teams that will view Carson Wentz as redeemable. I think he's redeemable. I don't think he's ever going to be in the discussion as a top 10 quarterback again, but if you have a top 15 quarterback in this league, you stick with him. I mean, we've seen that with Jay Cutler for years. We saw that with Matt Stafford. We've seen it with Andy Dalton for years. Like, that's what you do. And I think in the right system, Carson Wentz is very much redeemable. If you have a coach that believes in him, I just think, like, for instance, I think the Broncos would be a good spot for Carson if need be. I think John Elway is a guy who wants to find quarterbacks that resemble either his intelligence or his mobility or his toughness. And Carson Wentz does at least two of those things. And, Rich Gangarello's here now. I don't know if he'll be here next year, but he was really influential in Drew Lock's strong finish to the season last year. Maybe you trade Carson Wentz for Drew Lock in a third. I know that doesn't sound like a very big... Here's the thing. Okay, all right, let's have an honest debate here, okay?
All right, okay.
What do you really think Carson Wentz's value is? And if you're willing to get rid of him after spending a second-round pick on Jalen Hurts, and you know that you don't have any leverage because the final three... You have to trade him before the third day of the league, the new league year. You have 3 days to make a trade, essentially, before you owe him another $15 million down the line. If I'm a team on the outside, I'd think they have no leverage, especially if Carson Wentz is linking that he wants out. So maybe the price is a second-round pick in Drew Lock, but I don't know. To me, I don't think you can get a 1 for Carson Wentz. I don't. I don't think it's possible. Yes, his contract's fine. Yes, teams that miss on getting one of the top 3 quarterbacks are still going to need a quarterback. I get it, but those teams are still probably, if you need a quarterback, you're probably picking in the top 20, and you're not shelving out a top 20 pick for Carson Wentz after the injury history that he's had, after the money you're going to have to give him over. Yes, he's cheap for a starting quarterback, but he's still much more expensive than a rookie starting quarterback in the first round. And on top of that, you've just seen him have maybe the worst season in the NFL. He's been benched for 2 weeks, and he still leads the league in interceptions and sacks taken. So, look, maybe the Patriots say, hey, we'll give you our second-round pick and a player for him. Cool. I'm with that. But I just don't see that happening. What do you think his value is?
See, I don't mind a problem with trading him to the Broncos. I just don't want Drew Lock, especially if you're going to have Jalen Hurts here. I got no problem with that. I'd rather trade him to the Patriots because I think their pick is going to be a little bit. I would rather take that in the player as opposed to that. I'd actually probably put if they can get away with it. I'd probably say, hey, go ahead and give me your third, but make it performance based. If he goes ahead and leads them to the playoff for every game he starts, and if he starts all 16, then
you're not. But then you're not getting immediate return. You're not getting to use that pick this year.
At that point, I'd rather hold off for that and see what they get, or even if they get a straight up, hey, you get a 2 and a 2, or a 3 this year.
There's literally no way they are getting a 2 and a 2. I'll get highlights in my hair again if they get more than a second round pick for this.
Oh, I gotta go ahead and go for this bet. This is almost like Kevin from The Office. If you get 10,000 to 1 odds, you gotta take it. I gotta go ahead and take this bet.
I'll get highlights if they get the equivalent of a first round pick, which would be 2 second round picks. I'll dye my hair
and I'll get an afro wig and I'll wear it the whole entire. I'll wear it the whole entire first half of next season. Go ahead and walk around with that too.
You know who you'd look like? What's his name? The drummer for the Jimmy Fallon show?
Questlove?
The Roots. Yeah, Questlove. That's who you look like.
I'll get the pick and everything. I'll get the pick and start walking around with that. There you
go. We'll call you Chris Love is what we'll call you. But look, I just don't. His value is at an all-time low. I think last year you could have gotten a 1 for him. I just don't see it. Just with the leverage, like if it was pure player and he was on a rookie contract, yeah, you could probably get a 1 for him. But you're doing this to avoid spending $80 million in the future. Everyone in the league knows that. Everyone in the league knows that you have 3 days to make this trade. Everyone knows that Wentz does not want to be here if he's the backup. Everyone knows that he's jilted by all this stuff. So if Doug and Howie are back, you really have no leverage. So you're taking what you can get in theory. Now, if there's 4 teams involved, you're going to take the best offer, but I doubt that comes to a 2021 first round pick. Now, if they said, hey, look, we'll give you a 2022 first round pick for him, cool, but that's the equivalent of a second round pick.
And I think, I'm also from the school of you go ahead and you bring it in for a quarterback competition, because I'm from that
But
school.
that's why you trade for Drew Lock, because that way you still have the competition. Because either way, you're not giving Jalen Hurts the job. You can't. You're
See, I'd
trading
rather have
what
a
you.
more vet.
So okay, so then bring. But here's the thing: you have no cap space, so you're bringing in a veteran who's going to be on a look. Nate Sudfeld made $2 million this year. Like, I mean, that's the market. So if Sudfeld's making $2 million, is Cam Newton making $6 million? I mean, I know he and Jameis Winston were incredibly underpaid, but like, I mean, who are you bringing in? Like, if I'm them, I'm trading a 5th-round pick for Gardner Minshew over paying a veteran free agent.
See, I know he's a free agent coming up, and I wonder how much. I don't know if a lot of teams are going to go after him as a starter, so you may get him on the cheap and possibly. But being with Frank Reich, I go at Brissett. I think he could be a good.
Yeah, I like
want a veteran
Brissett, but he's gonna want serious money.
Yeah, and that's why I think if they could play the waiting game out with him, I'd say go ahead for it. But I'd rather want a very veteran quarterback. I mean, hell, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I wouldn't mind a guy like Andy Dalton coming in here to go ahead, because I want somebody.
Well,
that can
Dalton,
go
I
ahead
think,
and be like,
I think Dalton's on a 2-year.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, I just want somebody like that. So go ahead and I just want somebody to sound the way McCown was like for Wentz. I want somebody to go ahead and be that guy for Hurts as he goes to develop, because we don't know if Marty Morningweg's coming back. I think Morningweg's done a great job, but as Hurts mentioned, he's been going ahead and he's been hanging around him, learning the ins and outs of the NFL game, and I think having somebody like that for Hurts will definitely help him benefit with his growth and development if he is the starting quarterback next year going forward. So that's why I rather have somebody like that. And if you got traded for him, if you do trade Wentz, if you get a veteran guy that's not like Flacco-esque money or somebody else, and I say go for it. But that's the thing I go. But personally, I just got this feeling that even though the timing of this announcement was weird, it makes no sense, especially if Wentz is trying to get out. To go ahead and say that doesn't help his case, because the team's going to feel like, oh, we can just sit on this, and if that's the case, you want to get out, and everybody knows that it's going to be direct getting back, or not like a premium pick you're getting back. Might as well keep him and see what you got, especially with that cap money. So I just think this is all headed down to a quarterback competition beginning in the training camp next year. It just feels that way.
I don't see that at all, for what it's worth. Let's talk about this report, okay? Because here's why it helps no one. One, if the Eagles were leaking this, it makes it look like Wentz is out. Nothing in that report says the Eagles are open to trading Carson Wentz. Not a single word in there says that they want to trade Carson Wentz. So that's not showing that they're open for business. Also, the front office and coaching staff doesn't know if they're going to be around next year. They don't know what's going to happen unless they've been told in the last couple of days that they are going to stick around, which I don't believe has happened. I do think Howie Roseman will stick around, but I've believed that all year. I've said that several times on this podcast. I think Doug Pederson is more of a 50-50 shot, maybe a 60-40 based on the way Hurts played yesterday. But, I mean, I don't understand what this does for Carson. I mean, I think if anything, it makes him look like... not soft, but it makes it look like he doesn't want to compete for this job. It doesn't outright say he doesn't want to compete for this job, but if a guy's not willing to be a backup, how can he in good faith go into a quarterback competition? That's just not, that doesn't work. And here's the problem with keeping him until training camp is you're immediately guaranteeing him $15 million for the next year. So if he loses the competition, you're increasing your dead money cap hit. You're putting yourself even further in debt. And yes, their cap space in 2022 is terrific, but that doesn't seem like really smart business. And I think the way you handle an asset like this, if you're even the slightest bit sure that he is not the guy, you have to move him. Like, I don't know what a quarterback competition really does for you. Now, that said, there's 2 games left. If Hurts turns into a pumpkin, it's a completely different discussion. But if he continues to play the way he has, I can't imagine them sticking with a quarterback competition, because really that's the best case scenario for Carson Wentz right now. I can't imagine they just hand the job back to him. And that's based on that report is what he wants. I don't think that says a lot. Look, maybe he hasn't said it, but his people have said it. And it's leaked to other people. Look, I don't think he would mind a change of scenery, personally, based on what I've heard and what I've seen. And look, the city is rough. Look, to Carson's credit, he's been through a lot. He's overcome a lot. He's also had a lot thrown in his way. He's had a lot of obstacles that are in and out of his control. But the reality of the situation is, as a general manager, Howie Roseman has to worry about his bottom line. He has to worry about his job and the team as a whole, and not Carson Wentz. And I think, we have obviously just killed that Hurts pick several times in the media, all of us. But a GM's job is to find the most valuable talent possible. And not only has he found a very good player in Jalen Hurts, it appears, but he's done it at the most important position in all of sports. And I think that eventually we're going to have to come around to maybe we were wrong about this second round pick. Look, the thought process behind it was not agreeable. I think that Jalen Hurts would have been available in the third round. Probably not where they picked, but they could have traded up. They had several picks.
Hey, it's your delivered package. I'm on your doorstep freezing my cardboard flaps off while you're lounging in Bali. With Key by Amazon in-garage delivery, I could be safe and snug in your garage. Just link your MyQ account with Key by Amazon and hit free in-garage delivery at Amazon Prime checkout. Get your garage door MyQ connected with the MyQ Smart Garage Control for $29. Use promo code KEY30 for a $30 credit after your first delivery. Visit myq.com/podcast. With Key by Amazon in-garage delivery, you'll soak in the sun, and I won't soak in the rain.
I just think this is a situation that the Eagles have found themselves in, and they didn't expect to be in. They didn't expect Carson Wentz to regress to Brennan Allen and Mark Sanchez style play. Jalen Hurts was a cheap backup, premium backup, which they always invest in premium backups, by the way. But they couldn't afford to pay for a guy. So they spent the worth in draft picks. And Jalen Hurts was supposed to be a long-term guy, a potential long-term Nick Foles, AJ Feely type who could come in and win games and fill in if Carson suffered a minor injury. And then if he suffered a major injury, you've got a premium guy on your bench. Instead, this isn't an injury issue. This is a talent issue and a regression issue. And so now the Eagles need to figure out, well, gee golly, what do you do? Now, you brought up Matt Pryor earlier. A lot of people are going to look at this game and say, well, Jalen Hurts was moved around a lot in the pocket, and they let him throw the ball down the field in a way that Carson Wentz really wasn't allowed to. He was able to move out of the pocket. They had designed runs. They schemed guys open. Well, listen, when you have Matt Pryor as your right tackle, who is a human turnstile, who isn't even a very good guard, by the way, that's a problem. He's just not athletic enough to play right tackle, so they had to scheme around having a bad right tackle, which you said last week. It speaks to how they feel about Brett Toth, but I would not be surprised if Brett's a starter in the next 2 games. Chris, where do you think, you already said that you think that they should go to a quarterback competition, or at least that's what your gut feels. What do you think the right move is?
In regards to the right tackle, or just overall when it comes to
in quarterback. So Doug Pederson, let's say in this hypothetical, Doug Pederson's here, Howie Roseman's here. What are you doing at quarterback?
I'm going ahead. I'm still bringing them back both for go ahead and compete. I think even if both of them are here, you have to see what you can do. Because if you say you have a talent, because if you have Hurts regresses or teams going to have an offseason, go ahead and take a look at the tape that they have on him, and they go ahead and find out, hey, you know what, we can go ahead and stop him in the middle and he doesn't adjust, you're going to need to go back to somebody to go ahead and have a fallback option. And then if you don't have somebody that's really good, then you're back to where you were circa 2016. And you're in that quarterback hell where you're trying to find a leader of your franchise. So I still think the best thing for this team is to go ahead and have that competition. I think another way is, even though we know how Howie is a general manager, them bringing in Dorsey, I think that also curious to see what he thinks about the quarterbacks as well too. And I think that was an alarming move that he, even though he's been acting as a consultant, the fact that the Eagles brought him in to do so, I think that's kind of telling on what they thought about their analysis for their player personnel. So I think that's a wild card that's going to go on. And even if he's brought in, even if he goes on interviews to become a general manager and doesn't get it, do the Eagles bring him back? You still have him looming around as well too. So I think there's so many moving parts in this whole decision. Is crazy, but I still think the best thing to do, as the trash truck goes ahead and honks, is go ahead and say I think it's best to go ahead and just bring a competition to see and bring out the best, because I don't think you can go wrong with doing that.
Well, Carson Wentz is playing like the worst quarterback in the league under Doug Pederson, so I don't know what the option is. You've also just seen him watch from the sideline as a kid, played much better in his place. I just think this team look, this has been a year after year after year issue where either you're worried about Carson Wentz's injury history, or you're worried about Nick Foles, or, there's something going on. Like, Carson Wentz is like adversity is like drawn to adversity. Like, it's unfortunate. Like, it really is, because we should say he's a great guy, really good person, and it's really a shame that this has all happened, but it's the reality of the situation. I would almost rather bring in somebody else to compete with Hurts. And here's the thing: if you bomb, which you might, you'll have a top 10 pick and you can look for another quarterback. I just don't. And you'll have cap space to where you can bring in a veteran quarterback if you need to. So, like, 22 is the sun at the end of the trail. You're you're going from being stuck in a well to climbing out and being able to, do whatever you want. 2022 is a really good cap situation here. Let's look at over the cap. I'm going to go here because it like, really, if you think about it, like, even with like, if they get Wentz off the books, this isn't even with Wentz off the books. Hold on one second. My computer's being kind of goofy. Over the cap, what are you doing?
Let's see. I found here you go. 2022 looks like they have $50 million in cap space right now.
And that's okay, and that's without getting Carson off the books, which would probably give them about $70 million. Think about that. $70 million to play with. $70 million to burn. Like, that's wild.
It is, but you guys still have to see who's going to be available. You guys still know what system you're using. You got to see what coach you're going to use. I mean, if they bring a new coach, you got to see the.
But that's the same thing with having Carson Wentz stay. Like, that's my point to you. Is like, it was my point to you about Alshon Jeffrey too. It's my point to you about Jason Peters. Like, one situation.
How did Alshon do yesterday?
Wow, look how well he played without Carson Wentz, which says a lot, to be honest with you. But I'm just saying, like, you're not going to be players in free agency this year. You can't really build around Carson Wentz. You're not really set up for success. So what are you doing, really? And I think, like, that's the what you have to look at, right? Because if you're just going to have another middling year, you're going to put more wear and tear on Carson Wentz's body. You're going to guarantee him more money, even if he's terrible. You have to be able to rectify your mistakes. And I think the best way to do that is by, getting what you can for Carson Wentz, starting over with this rebuild in spirit. Because here's the thing, Carson Wentz is 28. You don't want to be rebuilding with him at this point. You want to put guys around him, and they have not brought in the talent in order to do that. So right now you look at a situation where, look, you want to get Carson Wentz off the books. You know that you have a massive rebuild to undertake. Jalen Hurts has 3 years left on his contract, and he's cheap. You can bring in a veteran backup to compete with them. If all fails, you'll have another top pick. There's probably a new guy in the front office. Look, this is going to be a Jeffrey Lurie decision. This is not going to be a Howie Roseman decision. And I think that's something that we also need to realize is let's say Howie Roseman's back. Maybe he's just back for a year with John Dorsey as his assistant GM. And if Howie can't get out of this mess, he'll have to clear up the cap space. He'll have to, figure out the quarterback position with you as the owner. And then if it all fails, you have Howie Roseman to scapegoat. You have Doug Pederson to scapegoat if he's still here. And then you rebuild. You have all this cap space for 2022. You have these draft picks that you'll have for 2022. A lot of guys are going to leave in free agency. You probably have compensatory picks in 2022 as well. You'll have 10 draft picks with 3 compensatory picks in 2021 at minimum if you don't trade Wentz. I just think now's the time to kind of bite the bullet, take the medicine, and really reshape the way this organization is, because the Cardinals game showed you that there are some promising pieces here and some guys who, if given time, Travis Fulgham, Quez Watkins, Alex Singleton, Michael Jacquet, etc., Jalen Hurts, who, if given the right amount of time and the right amount of seasoning, can bounce back and be assets. And I think that's what you kind of have to take away from that. But you also have to take away from the fact that the rest of the roster is plummeting the value of the team. And I think, look, Jason Kelce might retire next year. Jason Peters isn't going to be back. Deshaun Jackson isn't going to be back. Alshon Jeffrey isn't going to be back. Jalen Reagor has battled a bunch of injuries and didn't have an offseason. None of these rookies had a true offseason. Let's see what a young team can do, because, like I said, yesterday was fun because they were winning with a bunch of young guys and Alshon Jeffrey, not Alshon Jeffrey, Jason Peters, and a bunch of old guys. So that's what I think you need to take away from this. That's my stand. That's my rant. Real quickly, what do you think this all means for Doug Pederson and Howie Roseman? Where are you at with the Jalen Hurts effect on those two men?
I still think it's around 60, like you mentioned, 60-40. I really still think that Peterson's going to be coming back. I really do. And I think there's 2 key things that I saw that he's doing. He's got a young quarterback he's working with right now, which is proving that he can go ahead and he still knows how to coach and the offense still goes. And secondly, his team is still playing very hard for him. I mean, you're going 4-8-1 going into that game. You had to travel out west. You still have you had a fledgling chance of still winning the division, and his team played spirited football. They went out there, busted their butts and everything else, and you saw the effort, and they were all willing to lay down line, and they really are truly buying into this next man up mentality. And I think when you see you have a coach who's still able to go ahead and get that, even with this situation that's out there, and you still have the veterans still believing in them, and which is in turn go ahead and trickling down to the rookies. I think those 2 things itself go ahead and show, hey, you know what? He's not a bad coach. He may do some things that you question a lot of times, and certainly knows they deserve to be questioned. But I think when you look at the overall thing, he's still going to be, I think he still will be the head coach and still warrants to be the head coach of this football team. What do you think? Do you think he's coming back?
I mean, like, I'm kind of like up in the air. I think Doug gets a lot more flack than he probably deserves. That said, I don't know, man. It's very confusing because he doesn't really help himself publicly. I do think his offense has become extremely boring. Look, there are going to be firings on this staff. I think Dave Phipp should be shaking in his shoes right now. I don't know what the situation is with Jim Schwartz's contract. If he signed an extension, they're very secretive with that. But I think he's done an okay job, but it wouldn't shock me if they wanted to see if Matt Burke could be a cheaper, different influence at defensive coordinator. You look at, linebackers coach, that they need to change there with Flagel. I think Marquand Manuel's done a relatively good job. Obviously, the interceptions aren't there, but I think relatively they've played well, especially with all the injuries they've had. I think Rodney McLeod, before he got injured, was playing his best season since the Super Bowl year. I think Jalen Mills has really kind of proven a lot of people wrong. A strong safety. He hasn't been perfect. I don't know if he'll be back next year, but I think he's played a lot better than a lot of people want to admit. And on offense, look, I think Moorhead's done all right. I mean, he's had not a lot to work with. I think Deuce is obviously terrific. You wrote a great story today about minority head coaching hires and the struggles that GMs and head coaches of color or candidates of color have to go through. And I think, look, Deuce Staley's a guy who I could see becoming a CEO head coach somewhere. Maybe not this year, but down the road. I think he deserves a lot more credit than he gets nationally. He's really a guy who I think brings a lot of talent to this staff. I think there needs to be less voices. If you are keeping Doug Pederson, like, he needs to either be a guy who trusts in his own creativity, or he needs to give up play calling. I tend to lean towards the latter. I don't think it helps having him be the play caller at this point. And I think everything he does is pretty stale. I'd rather him focus on the big picture and be a CEO head coach. But yeah, I mean, I think it's like a 60-40, 50-50 sort of deal. If they win the next two games and sneak into the playoffs, he's definitely staying. But if they split the next two and Jalen Hurts looks as good as he has, I think he's staying too. I just don't know what's sustainable at this point. Yeah, it's a weird situation because really, in reality, in any other city, a guy who won a Super Bowl 3 years ago would not be on the hot seat no matter what. So
that's true. That's very,
but
very
it's
true.
Philly, and that's where we're at. We love you, Philly. Anyway, so you can make sure you sign up for Eagles Extra. We've put out some really great content this morning, behind the scenes on how Jalen Hurts became the unwavering oak that he has become. I mean, the guy just, he's not deterred by anything. I spoke to a lot of people.
Do you mind if I don't mean to interrupt you, but I was going to say that, I mean, you guys really should read this. I mean, Mike did a great job going ahead and getting to learn what makes this guy tick and the little ins and outs of what's going on, why he's been poised so far in that one. So I just wanted, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but to say kudos to you, man, for doing a great job on that story.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Getting a lot of good feedback about it, but I think, look, I think we've come out swinging. Look, and just because the season seems out of focus doesn't mean we're going to stop bringing the heat and bringing you that great content that you expect from us. Remember, again, you can sign up for Eagles Extra on NJ.com/text. You can download the No Huddle Show podcast wherever podcasts are available. For Chris, I'm Mike. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, it's your delivered package. I'm on your doorstep freezing my cardboard flaps off while you're lounging in Bali. With Kaye by Amazon in-garage delivery, I could be safe and snug in your garage. Just link your MyQ account with Kaye by Amazon and hit free in-garage delivery at Amazon Prime checkout. Get your garage door MyQ connected with the MyQ Smart Garage Control for $29. Use promo code KEY30 for a $30 credit after your first delivery. Visit myq.com/podcast. With Kaye by Amazon in-garage delivery, you'll soak in the sun, and I won't soak in the rain.